Hey gang, welcome back. It's I, DrBossKey, and the question for you today is, would you like to have thruster effects when you are essentially causing the player to move, or particle effects, anything you want to do, right? So in this particular paradigm, I'm using a dual stick control setup here. You don't need to have that.
Off the debris as Ford maneuvered his space
And there's the prototype of some of our story bits. Okay, so but more importantly here, so whenever we give input, D-pad or analog stick, in this particular case, we have particles that we play, which is like this thruster. And as long as I'm giving input, they will continue to thrust. So the question is, would you like to do that? Let me show you how we did it. All right. So relatively easy setup. A couple versions back, we have the ability now to script inputs for detecting input, right? And this is both analog stick and D-pad. So it can be also keyboard as well. And yeah, so I have it on keyboard, but here I'd have to switch to a different paradigm for mouse to do the orientation. Different thing. But so what you want to do is you come on over here. You have essentially what's called the button start and stop when the player presses a button. I think, is that right? Yeah, that's correct. Cool. And what you want to do is you want to essentially create 4 of these for each of your buttons. In your case, it's cardinal directions, so up, down, left, right. And you can see here that each of the buttons, we basically set to switch mode and always activate it, meaning that no matter where you're at, as long as this logic has been activated, it will be present throughout the whole level. So, and it's good to put this at your starting position when you load a level. So, and then you want to repeat that basically. And in our particular case, we wanted to have the particle system to continue emitting particles while the direction input was given. So that's why we switched the mode to hold. So, and not just tap. Otherwise, if it's set to just tap, you would, or sorry, not tap, press. If you set it to just press, you'd only get one little burst of those particles. So, but you get the concept. So, so you got all 4 of your directions here. Then you feed all of these into essentially a trigger. And in this particular trigger, you want to set to switch mode. So it means that you can send multiple events, start and stop, so you can reuse the trigger. It's not just a once and done. We set the connected enemy state is sum alive, meaning that any one of these, and it's not really an enemy in this particular case, but the logic works. But that just basically means that any one of these can trigger this trigger. And then from this trigger, we added a little debug, just like input it pressed, so we can tell that was happening. And in this particular case, if you want to do something similar, just to kind of test, we set the duration down to 0.1 seconds. It also needs to be set to switch mode, your text. And then you want to turn off your transition and transition out and the fades. So that way it's just an instant while it's on. So you can see here. So every time I tap any of the WSD keys for me in this case, I've got a little like reaffirmed input pressed. And then this trigger connects down to your effects object. The effects object is attached. So you have the attachment system. So you want to attach that to your player. In our case, this is the player. And then we put the effects underneath the back of the ship in this case. But you can kind of see where this is going, right? Like you could do all kinds of interesting things with this particular setup. And the effects itself is set to particle system. We just used a fire thruster. And under the fire thruster here, we set the particles. So these are actually the ones that are included with Shmup Creator. So you could do the same thing pretty easily. But basically we have this set up here. The gas fire texture, it's an animation duration is particle life cycle. The life min max is set to 1 second to 1.5 seconds to give a little bit of variability. And then over on this side, the most important things here is you're going to set up your emission to constant and infinite. So that way it'll always be triggering. This is all aesthetics at this point, but the main thing here is that you just want to see that you can, and also I probably should show this. So also on the, let's see here. Yeah, so emission direction, we inverted from -1 to 1. That way it was always going outwards from the ship and instead of inwards to the ship. So that is it. Super sweet. I hope, shout out to Andy that this helps you in your twin stick shooter. So yeah, so there you go. That should probably help out quite a bit. So, If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And to everyone that's been following along and supporting the channel, thank you very much. To the Shmup Creator community, you guys are awesome. And we'll see you all next time.